From Texas Public Radio, this is Texas Matters, a weekly radio news magazine that looks at the issues, events, and people in the Lone Star State. Today on Texas Matters, Texas is at war against the screwworm. Are we winning?
Well, we missed our window of opportunity when we had it bottled up in southern Mexico. We're not going to get that opportunity again. We missed the easy out. Now we're going to have to do it the hard way.
And oil prices are high and getting higher. Why isn't Texas doing the drill, baby, drill?
Using the price elasticity of demand for crude oil indicates that the price should go to about $196 a barrel.
Support for GPR comes from UT San Antonio, offering degree programs and research focused on workforce development, student success, and health innovation across Texas. UTSA.edu. UT San Antonio, the University of Ambition.
This is Texas Matters from Texas Public Radio. I'm David Martin Davies. As of Friday morning, there are 9 cases of the New World screwworm in the U.S., 8 of them in Texas. The screwworm is a pest that is a threat to all warm-blooded creatures, including people. It had been eradicated from North and Central America, but now it is back. The flesh-eating parasite is on the move in Texas, and the U.S. Department of Agriculture is not able to stop it for now. Texas Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller says the USDA messed up and allowed the problem to happen. Miller lost his Republican primary bid for re-election to Nate Sheets, and he will leave office at the end of the year. I spoke to Miller about the screwworm and why he's been frozen out of the efforts to contain it.
We could have stopped it. It wasn't I went to the USDA and reminded them that they had two assets, 2 tools that they could use. They were already using the sterile insect technique, SIT, which is where they release sterile flies and they mate with the fertile flies and they, don't produce the offspring. But it's not enough. It's never been enough. So I was encouraging them while we had it bottled up in southern Mexico, to go ahead and use the SWAS system. That's Screwworm Adult Suppression System. And basically what that is, in its most simple form, is a fly bait. We could have bottled them up. We had them in a very small geographical location. We could have wiped them out right there, and we would have never had this problem. USDA, for some reason, chose not to use both assets. Now, the SWAS system, it's a USDA product. They developed it. Their scientists and researchers developed it. They deployed it numerous times with great success. But they didn't listen. They just completely stuck with sterile flies, which really don't work. Time to do something different. Actually, it's past time to do something different. So we need to launch the SWAS system. We eradicated it in the 70s and 80s using that. We had an outbreak in 1976 in Texas. We had 29,000 cases of screwworm infestations. We launched the SWAS system, put out the bait. It killed 95% of the flies. We followed up with sterile flies. The following spring, we were down to 47 cases. So we know it works. It's got a proven track record. It's time we use it. So, I love Donald Trump. There's not a stronger supporter than me, Donald Trump. I'm calling on him to intervene and let's stop this. And this, by the way, this is not just a cattle thing. It's all livestock. It's pets. A lot of the cases we've been hearing about lately are dogs, cats. There's, virtually every family in the United States has a pet. So every family is susceptible to this pest. Just a simple tick bite is enough blood to attract a screwworm fly. And that's how most of these dogs are getting infected, is through tick bites. So it's infected 275 humans. 2 of them died in Mexico. We've had a couple here in North America that have been infected with it. So it's not just a cattleman's problem. It's everybody's problem.
Well, the billion-dollar Edinburgh, Texas fly factory will not be ready until May of 2027, according to Governor Abbott.
Yeah, it's going to be later than that. It'll be ready, but it's not going to be up to full production until late in 2028. So we don't have 3 years to wait. It's here now. We have an outbreak in Texas now. So that's really not a very good option. Is wait. It'll be all over the southern United States for them.
What does that mean for cattle producers if that happens?
Well, it means, more input costs. You're going to have to hire more labor. You're going to have to patrol your cattle. We're going to have to doctor them more often. It's going to probably decimate our wildlife population, our deer, and turkey, and everything that we make money off of selling hunts. It's going to have, people are going to get infected with it. That's not good. There's nothing good about this insect, really.
I remember seeing that first press conference last week, and I was asking myself, where is Sid Miller? Why weren't you there?
I wasn't invited. I was not invited. I would have been there if I was invited.
Well, that's bizarre.
Well, I make them look bad. Every time I get a chance, I bring up the SLOSS system. They don't want to use it. It's embarrassing to them. That's why they didn't want me there.
Governor Greg Abbott, he endorsed your primary opponent, who ended up with more votes than you in the Republican primary. Is there something going on there?
I don't know what your question is. How does that happen?
I mean, is there something between you and Governor Abbott?
Well, obviously Abbott doesn't like me. I mean, that's pretty obvious. He endorsed my opponent. So he's not going to allow me to come to a press conference where he's the center stage. So I'd show him up probably.
You're still the Agriculture Commissioner of Texas at a time where Texas agriculture is dealing with a crisis.
That's definitely true. And I'll continue to work to my last hour of the last day. I'm determined to eliminate this pest in my tenure. I just don't see handing it off to anybody else that could handle the job.
Is the fact that you were not invited to the briefings, you're not there for the press conferences, and you have a different, more aggressive take on dealing with the screwworm response, is that going to slow down or interfere or have any kind of negative impact on the response to screwworm?
I don't think so. I mean, you're calling me wanting my opinion, so apparently I'm still relevant. I've still got a good idea. It still needs to be implemented. We're still talking about it. Hopefully, the Trump administration will see the value of using every tool in the toolbox. I mean, you go to war, you don't eliminate any of your weapons that you're going to use, and we've limited ourselves. We don't need to do that. We need to wipe this thing out. We had a chance to stop it. We missed that window. That now we have to eliminate it and eradicate it for good.
Well, can you use your position that you still have? You have control of this agency. Can you do your own SWAT system?
We're planning on that. Absolutely. That's in the plan. It's in the works. It's a little difficult. We don't have any appropriations for it. I have the money to do it, but I've got to get permission to spend it for that purpose, and we're working on that. Texas is going to have to lead. We can't wait on USDA to do this. So we've got to, do it ourselves, which is not unusual for Texas. We take the lead on a lot of stuff.
Then can Abbott stop you?
We'll see.
Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rawlings said that you were not a serious person at the press conference. Do you have a response to that?
When it comes to this subject, there's no one more serious than me. I'll just leave it there.
I mean, you're a cattleman yourself.
You darn right I am. 8th generation.
And you had eyes on and experience with the screwworm in your own personal history?
I've actually treated sheep, goats, and cattle for screwworm when I was a young boy. We had them on our ranch. I know what they are. I've seen the damage they could do. In a matter of just an hour or two, they can eat out a golf ball size hole in the side of a cow's head. It's very devastating.
What is your biggest concern if we don't get a handle on the screwworm? What's it going to mean for beef producers? I mean, they're already dealing with drought conditions. They're getting low prices for their cattle, even though people are paying big prices at the grocery store. That money's not getting to the rancher.
Well, the ranchers are doing okay. The cow-calf guys are making money. None of the rest of the food chain is in the cattle industry. The stocker operators, the feedlot operator, they're not. But the cow-calf people, they're doing fine.
So you don't think this is going to be something that would definitely have a long-term economic impact to the Texas cattle industry?
Well, you can just look at history and see what it did to us. It was decimating to the livestock and not just cattle. Remember, it affects all 200 mammals living in the state of Texas.
A rancher who finds screwworm on his ranch, if he reports it, what happens, and are they disincentivized to report it?
Well, see, I think the USDA did a poor job of publicizing that. They came out and said, send us a sample. If it's positive, we'll come quarantine your ranch. Well, to me and every rancher, a quarantine is a lockdown. If you're quarantined to your house, you can't go anywhere. And that if you quarantine a ranch, animals can't move. And so I came out and said, that's not a good idea. I mean, I had ranchers tell me, so I'm not reporting it. I don't want to be locked down. I'm just going to treat it and shut up. I said, well, I'd probably do the same thing. That's a disincentive. And then they came out that press conference you're mentioning. And they said, oh, that's not what we meant. We're going to just let you get a health certificate, a health inspection. Well, that's already law. When I go to rodeo or I go to a horse show, I have to get a health inspection to show that my animals are healthy, or they can't show up on the fairgrounds. So that's kind of already the norm, and that's not a quarantine. They would have been better off if they said, we find a screwworm in your place. We're going to have a 12-mile hot spot, and anybody in the hot spot's going to have to get a veterinary inspection before you can sell your cattle. No one would have had a problem with that. But when they called it quarantine, that says we're locking you down. And they didn't, I don't know if they meant that originally and changed their mind, or they, just using poor choice of words. But so here's the bottom line. I agree with them. You should if you find a sample, send it in. We need to know where they are. Since they're not going to lock you down, they're not really going to quarantine you. That's okay. They can mark on, this is going to be another place we need to drop some fly bait, or we need to drop some sterile flies. That would be good for you. You want that. That's actually what they did when we had it before. You reported, if you come back a positive, they would drop sterile flies on your place or the fly bait. And that's an incentive, not a disincentive. And that's kind of what they meant, but they did a poor job of explaining it.
I would like to get really just clarity on what the policy is, so that people will know, ranchers will know that they can report it and they will not be subjected to a lockdown quarantine. And so that is your understanding of the policy today?
Yeah, that's the way they explained it at the press conference for the first time.
When ranchers are hearing you, state officials, and federal people like Brooke Rawlings disagreeing publicly, does that create confusion? And I mean, that's not what we need right now. We need clarity.
Well, I'm not disagreeing with Brooke Rawlings at all. I agree we need the sterile flies. We need more of them. We need to build the fly factory. Absolutely. What I'm suggesting is that's not all we need to do. There's no disagreement. She disagrees with me in that the SWA system is needed. But everything she's doing, I agree with. I even agree with what they call a quarantine. That's not a quarantine. That's a good move. So I don't necessarily disagree with anything she says.
Canada says they're not going to take U.S. cattle. Mexico says they're not going to take any livestock from the United States. This has got to be hurting the bottom line of the industry, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, it doesn't surprise you, especially Mexico. We've had them shut out for 2 years. So them shutting us out is, I'm surprised they went 2 years before they shut us out. So we've got, that was an outlet for unwanted horses, for, sows and ewes and nanny goats that are at the end of their life cycle. They would buy all that from us. We don't have a market for that now. So that's going to suppress farm prices even more.
And what does the outlook look like? I mean, it seems like the screwworm is spreading. We have a goat in Gillespie County. That's in the hill country. We're no longer talking about South Texas. And who knows where else we're going to hear about next. I mean, it seems like it is out there now.
None of these new cases are on the Rio Grande. They're all at least one county over. Gillespie County, Fredericksburg, that's 140 miles from the border. Lee County is over 400 miles from the border. The one in La Prairie, 40 miles from the border. The one in Cotulla, 70 miles from the border. And we had another one this morning in Edwards County, which is also not on the Rio Grande.
Yeah, so that tells you the fly is out there, and it is not contained to just the border area.
No, especially when it's in Lee County, New Mexico. That one's well over 400 miles.
We need to have more of a statewide response. Is that happening?
Right. Well, we missed our window of opportunity when we had it bottled up in southern Mexico. That we're not going to get that opportunity again. We missed the the easy out. Now we're going to have to do it the hard way.
And the expensive way.
Expensive way, yes, sir.
So rather than spending the appropriate amount of dollars to prevent the problem, now we're going to be spending a lot more to deal with it.
You've got a perfect 2020 vision.
And it's going to take time. It's not going to happen in one calendar year, maybe 2 or 3. I mean, eventually it will get taken care of, but it's going to take a lot of effort, and it's going to take a lot of expense. A lot of that is going to be on the back of beef producers.
Well, if we keep doing what we're doing, we won't stop it. At least not for 3 years till we get, 700 million flies a week. So it's here to stay unless we change our mode of operation, which I'm desperately trying to get done.
Do rural veterinarians, do they have the supplies, the training, and the reporting channels that they need in order to participate in this response?
I think so. We've got this Zavala County. We've got 2 cases down there. There's no veterinarian in the county, and they're under a fever tick quarantine. So before an animal can leave that county, they have to be dipped. So they're in quite a predicament. You get a cow that you need to take to the vet that's got screwworm. You got to go through the animal health department, take them to a dipping vat somewhere, which, by the way, would kill all the screwworms, and get them dipped, and then take them to the vet.
Go to a realistic worst case scenario if the current response fails.
Well, it's already failed. It's not if it fails, it's what we're doing is not working. We've been doing it for 18, 20 months, and it's getting worse and worse and spreading. So it'll be more of the same. It'll continue to spread unabated.
Sid Miller is the Texas Agriculture Commissioner. Oil prices are high right now, and you look at the gas pump and you can see it. But the predictions are they're going to get much higher by the end of the summer as petroleum reserves are depleted. You might think Texas, the nation's largest oil producer, would shift into high gear to produce more oil, but according to the Dallas Federal Reserve, that is not happening. Instead, Texas oil producers are cashing in on the higher prices, and they're going to ride out the coming oil shock. Energy economics professor at the University of Houston, Ed Hers, says Texas oil producers don't have much of a choice, given that President Donald Trump continues to promise that a peace deal with Iran is immediate and the Strait of Hormuz will soon reopen. I spoke with Ed Hers about what this means for the consumer.
The U.S. attack on Iran was not anticipated by the administration to have any impact on the Strait of Hormuz, even though for 50 years, national security analysts, the Department of Defense, and economists had pointed out this is a severe challenge, chokehold, and bottleneck that if Iran ever executed was going to drive the price of oil up dramatically. And well, that's what happened. The president has said that he would have peace and cease fires with Iran over the last, every week since the conflict started. And knowing this, no producer in Texas is going to invest the millions of dollars required to drill a well. Keep in mind that the break-even price required to drill new wells in Texas was about $70 a barrel, and that's using data from the Dallas Federal Reserve Bank. That's an average. Some producers can make money at lower prices, but some require higher prices. And the capital flight out of the industry is real. For the last 15 years, up until the war drove the price up, the oil and gas industry has been the worst performing sector in the S&P 500. And so Wall Street doesn't freely give money to oil and gas development anymore. The producers have been through several short, violent, volatile cycles where the price fell, well, actually to zero in 2020. And this hurts capital deployment. The president, with his tariffs war, increased the cost of drilling wells because of the 50% tariff on imported steel, which, of course, domestic producers of steel could raise their prices right away, and they did. The Texas producers have also been hammered by the increased enforcement by ICE. And so while the workers may have been legal, perhaps their extended families weren't. And that's put a damper on the oil patch labor force. And, quite honestly, there's a problem with jumping into a development that may take 6 months to a year and knowing that the price is going to be a lot less, by this time next year and not above the break-even price that's required. A final thought or component or contributing factor is that many producers took advantage of the higher prices before the president was sworn into office, and they layered in swaps or hedges such that if the price of oil fell from $75 a barrel, then their counterparties would make up the difference going forward. Well, the flip side of that is if the price of oil got above $75 a barrel, the oil producers would have to pay the difference to their counterparties. So, for example, ExxonMobil announced that they had entered into such an arrangement and effectively locking in the price of oil, I think at about $70 a barrel for them. And now with the price in the high 90s or low 90s, depending upon what time of day it is, they are having to pay up to $20, $25 a barrel to their counterparties in the commodities markets. So while the price of oil has gone up, many producers having locked in hedges at the break-even price have not had an ability to capitalize on that. And with higher cost, they're kind of in a bad situation. They're watching their friends cash some big checks, but they can't and don't have the capital to deploy to go drill new wells.
We can look at the rig count in Texas, and we see that what you're saying is true. We're not seeing very many. It's just a very modest handful of new rigs being established in the state.
Yep, that's absolutely true. And in fact, it's not just the rig count in the U.S. we have to be watching for. It took, about 5 years before the rig count in the Middle East fully recovered from the pandemic shutdown. And so all across the global oil market, drilling for oil with new wells has really been dampened by the downturns that the entire industry has suffered over the last 5-6 years.
President Trump has said we don't need oil coming through the Strait of Hormuz, that we can produce more oil in the United States. His policy has been drill, baby, drill, but we've seen less drilling actually since he's been president. But when he says we don't need that oil, we can produce more, mainly from Texas, we're seeing that not happen.
Right. It's an issue with price, of course. And the president, like many folks who are unfamiliar with the economics of the industry, believes that oil is everywhere, ubiquitous, and costs the same to get out of the ground. Well, that's not the case. There are many different grades of oil. The shale plays have lighter, tighter crudes. And in fact, the U.S. exports about 4.5 million barrels a day of its lighter oils from the shale plays because that doesn't marry up well with our refineries. Last year, in 2025, the U.S. imported on average 6.2 million barrels a day. More than 4 million barrels a day of that came from our ally, Canada. That matches up well with the refineries across the midsection of the country and down to the Gulf Coast. Our imports from countries that have been cut off by the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz averaged about 490,000 barrels a day. And while the U.S. is the wealthiest buyer of oil in the global market, we can certainly replace that 490,000 barrels with oil from someplace else. But the fact of the matter is there are no restrictions on exporting oil or refined products from the United States. So in the first week of the conflict, ExxonMobil chartered tankers to take gasoline and refined products to Asia. And so quite literally, we have the consumer in San Antonio, the consumer in Austin competing against the consumer in Tokyo or in Ho Chi Minh City for the next gallon of gasoline.
But it does seem like the price of oil right now can be said to be artificially low, and that we are going to be hitting a D-Day on when draining strategic reserves is no longer going to be an option, and China is going to begin to be buying more oil, and that we're going to hit, some experts say, $200 a barrel oil, and Texas not being able to produce more oil, whether because of economic constraints, because they believe Donald Trump's promises that peace is around the corner with Iran, that we're going to hit a conflict there that is going to be costly at the gas pump.
That's absolutely correct. So in our paper, Crude Oil Imports and National Security, we outlined the mathematics behind that analysis. And this was done a number of years ago. In fact, I lectured with the U.S. Naval Staff College about that, now more than 10 years ago. And starting from where we were at $56 a barrel in January, removing about 10% of the global production from the global oil market, using the price elasticity of demand for crude oil, indicates that the price should go to about $196 a barrel. And so this is the threat that the Iranians have made. That price increase has been blunted by the release of 400 million barrels by the International Energy Agency, and of that includes $172 million from the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve. These reserves will be sold into the market sometime by the end of June, July, or August, depending upon which analyst you're listening to. If peace is not broken out, if the strait is not unblocked, and these nations that have been bottled up can restore production, we're going to see much higher prices because of the end of the releases. We know that the U.S. Navy has said it would take up to 3 months to clear the Strait of Hormuz of any mines. We know that oil facilities in Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, and Iraq have been damaged by Iran. And we also know that they have shut in tens of thousands of wells in that region. It's going to take time to restore production to pre-war levels.
Ed Hers is an energy economist at the University of Houston. That's it for this edition of Texas Matters. Thanks for listening. I'm David Martin Davies. Email us at texasmatters@tpr.org. You can find us wherever you get cool podcasts, and tune in again next week for another edition of Texas Matters from Texas Public Radio.